How do you counteract a version of that where they're just outbidding each other for the same property and fueling that price appreciation with each other?
The reason he's sending me properties almost every day to look at,
it's relationship.
It's relationship. He's good with people.
Information asymmetry that exists in property is real.
There is on the ground. Surge of investor activity happening. This is almost like a Perth in the last 2-3 years.
Yeah. The best affordable markets in Victoria to buy in mid-2025. Part 2. Adi, let's keep going. We discovered 3 amazing locations in the last episode. Golden Square, Ararat.
That's right.
I just wanted to say that. And what was the one that I missed?
Winduri.
And Winduri.
Ballarat.
So we covered a whole range of areas in regional Victoria where property investors can go and buy with more affordable budget spectrums with higher yields. And now we've got 3 more.
3 more.
I love this. Your data research and analysis is pretty freaking fantastic. And thank you so much for sharing it. Even with me, like I'm sitting here right next to you and I'm learning a lot. And that has always been one of the most contagiously infectious energies that I get when I learn about property.
Contagious and infectious. That's
Yeah, I just wanted to say the word twice. Synonym out, man. I was saying a nice thing about you, man. No. That's mean.
No, I'm contagious and infectious. That's cool. I like that.
All right, let's start with the first area. I feel like we may have mentioned some of these before, and I know some of these you're buying in as well. Mm-hmm. So let's go with number 1.
Let's go number 1. Shepparton.
Ooh.
Good old Shepparton.
Ooh, we mentioned this in the bonus episode in one of our episodes.
Actually. Oh, we did, didn't we?
Yeah,
you were very hyped up about it. I remember that.
Oh, yeah. That's got a little bit of attention. Yeah.
Yeah. That's right.
Let's not go there. Anyway, let's
go there.
Let's go.
So Shepparton's looking really good. Now, Shepparton is, again, very, very affordable. It's sitting at sub 30 years, which is fantastic. Exactly what you want to see with something with a price point of, 450, 500. You can get sub 400 properties, but it'll need a little bit of work. Supply is shockingly low. This is kind of what I know I made a reference to Mildura in the previous episode, but this is kind of what I saw Mildura at. It was a very, very low stock. And there's not a lot of, the other thing I'll mention is with regional markets, especially ones that are just on the cusp of rising, where you're sort of reading the data maybe 3 months before it really takes off, there's not a lot of off-market opportunities. So most of the sellers in these markets want to go through the whole,
Okay, interesting.
Yeah, on-market process. The off-market thing starts coming up when the market starts heating up a little bit. They're like, oh, there are more opportunities. I don't necessarily have to have, 100 people traverse through my house. I can actually do this because there's a database of buyers. So typically that's the kind of trajectory you're going to see over the next 6 months. So Shepparton is quite similar. However, we are fortunate. We are starting to see quite a bit of off markets here, again, for certain clientele, which is very, very cool. Very low supply, 0.25%, nothing. New construction, there is none, 0.7%. It has kind of gone up in the last 12 months, so 0.45%. So to me, that is actually a really positive sign. It's starting to have that upswing because it didn't do much in the last 3 or 4 years before that. I love this. Vacancy rates, when they're falling in regional markets, just like they were in the other ones we mentioned, rents are starting to go up, right? This is really, I love this dynamic of there's price growth potential here, and then rents are already going up because there's just not enough rental stock. So if you're out there, you're a little bit price sensitive, you have a $450,000 budget, you really need that yield component for your serviceability. This is what you want. You start off with a 5% yield and your rents are continuously increasing. It's amazing. I love this. I'm so excited.
I do like this. I want to present something to you and be like,
sure.
So my tentacles in my world tell me that a couple of the bigger buyers agents are buying in Shepparton. Both of them are probably the largest buyers agents. Well, 3 of them, they're all in Shepparton at the moment, all at the same time. So let's just say...
I didn't realize we're top 3.
That's funny.
That's hurtful.
4. There's a group of buyers agents buying there at the same time. So can I ask, what happens to a situation where if I'm a real estate agent being like, hey, buyers agent 1, This is the hey buyer's agent 2, hey buyer's agent 3.
Yeah.
So how do you counteract a version of that where they're just outbidding each other for
Yeah.
the same property and fueling that price appreciation with each other? Particularly those that just, can purchase
at scale.
At scale, yeah, and that are like, I just need volume. I need to get it done. So how do you counteract that as like a person trying to buy in these areas?
It's a really good question. I think you asked me a version of it for Darwin as well,
Yes.
right? Darwin's a crazy market, very low stock. How do you actually compete with some of the bigger buyers agents that are already there, right?
Yep.
They were there. We were there a little bit earlier, but once they came in, it was like, I need 20 houses all at the same time. And
Yep.
you're like, holy something. Bleep that out.
So he's banned from this podcast.
and YouTube in general is terrible.
$1 into the jar. I've got kids.
It's $1? Still $1? Jeez, bump it up to 5, man. It's 2025 inflation.
I like that.
So, how do we do it? So, the reason we are still able to buy really good stock in a place like Darwin and Shepparton and Mildura is because we just have better relationships with people. Now, it's a kind of like a cheat code, when I'm going to stand on a slightly of a pedestal here. The culture that we have built in the team is one of respect, integrity, kindness, all of those things that probably don't exist when you're buying 30 properties at the same time.
Yep.
Because you don't have the time to establish those relationships. Yep. I've got this feedback from real estate agents. I've got this feedback about my team from real estate agents. They work differently in these markets. They spend a lot of time. And I'll say this, because we get into markets earlier, we tend to introduce ourselves to agents earlier. So there's a longer history of establishing that relationship. Yep. We're not coming in 6 months into like the craziness and be like, hey, I'm another buyer's agent trying to buy here. It's not like that. We buy 6 months, 3 months before. That's why the ones I'm mentioning, they're movers. They're just on the cusp of it.
Yes.
Going to Shepparton, so like my guy Tal, shout out to Tal. He's out there sourcing property in Shepparton at the moment for quite a number of clients who are lower budget, etc. The reason he's sending me properties almost every day to look at,
it's relationship.
It's relationship. He's good with people, and he's.
I think it's even more important in these regional towns as well, where it's a bit quieter, a bit slower, and people value the human-to-human connection.
Absolutely.
This is what I love about property. It applies across so many different ways, and the information asymmetry that exists in property is real. Like, it's not like you just go on a website and check out the price of a stock and it moves and everyone has access to that information. That's not how it works with property. It is biases that exist. Humans are involved in that interaction process, and that information gap that exists between one player to another creates opportunity to be the player that's favored. And part of that is just the human relationship network, so you don't find yourself in that situation. So really, really good insight. Thank you so much for that. Can you keep sharing about Shepparton? Tell me a little bit more.
Yeah, so there's something special about Shepparton, I feel, and I think most investors at the moment are overlooking it purely because it's just not on people's radar. It's hard to find places like this unless you have almost like a research function dedicated to your day. Like, we have people who do this day in and day out. They're like, hey, Addy, have you thought about Shepparton? I didn't know about it. My team told me about it. And I was like, oh, wow, this is great. Once I went through my filtering process, I was like, this is the lens I always look at it as. If I was 5 years ago, if I was 10 years ago, my budgets were different, would I be buying here? And if it's like a really excited, hell yeah, this is another Griffith for me, that usually turns up on this podcast. So that's the 6 that we're going through.
I love it.
It's a regional economy as well. It's not just like a standalone city. It's like a really big economy. Actually, shout out, my friend Caps's dad owns a restaurant there, which is really cool, which I'm yet to visit. So I'm hoping to visit in the next little while. So
love that.
Shout out to Caps's dad, whose name now
I've learned
skips.
just on this podcast, little side anecdote, we've had a couple in this episode, is you shout out a lot of people. You got a lot of friends, Adi.
I do.
Man, you're a cool guy. Like, you've shouted out more people in this 2 hours than I've shouted out than I probably know in my life. So,
Mum,
I've got
Rona.
friends.
I do.
I've got friends, Adi. Tell us a little bit more. So you've got population growth here. That's there as well. I love that.
I know. Especially in a regional town, right? And underpinned by some of the economic diversity that is there. I love it. Food processing, logistics, healthcare, it's all sort of drives housing demand, right?
I love this.
More people come into this. And it's a pretty big center as well. There's a solid amount of people living there.
Yeah.
So all of that is, contributing to, there's obviously going back to the supply issue, there are more people moving in. It's kind of like the Western Melbourne story, right? There's a ton of people moving into these places. We bought a property in Western Melbourne, 533,000. And you're like, how is that even happening? There's such little stock, there's such high demand, and there's population growth on top of that. Shepparton has a very similar story. Very, very low supply. And there are people moving in because there's job opportunities there. The labor force sort of, the workforce, there's quite a bit of stuff happening because the economy is sort of like, thriving. I love that. This reminds me of Griffith from 10 years ago. I was just so excited to buy there. I didn't understand it nearly as well, but now that I can see all of those things in the last 10 years, I'm like, man, people are going to do very, very well here.
I like it. The economic fundamentals that you just talked about there, the sectors, when you do a sectoral analysis of Shepparton and its economy, I just have green ticks for like the future of these sectors. And that's really, really positive as well. It's diverse and it's diverse in the rising sectors of Australia. So that's pretty attractive. Anything else we want to?
I didn't fully realize that the big BAs were here. That's
I've heard about this. Very recent, actually. When you see the new markets they're buying in, if you check out the Instagram post, Shepparton is one of them. Probably get a little bit too much insight in my chair, in my mortgage broker chair. That is something that I see across the board.
A lot of contracts coming through.
Pretty much from everywhere. So that's something that we've picked up on.
Cool.
Cool. What else have we got here? Let's go into our next location.
Let's do it. Have you spoken about this one before?
No, it's a new one. I'm actually really excited by this. It's also got a beautiful name as well. Let's go with it.
It does. So I'm going to preface this. Out of the 6 that we've talked about in these 2 segments, this one is now my favorite. And I say now my favorite is because the one that we're going to talk about after this one, the last and final 6th one, has kind of become a bit of an annoyance now. And I'll tell you why that is as well.
Let's go.
So Hamilton is the next suburb that we want to talk about.
Hamilton,
not the musical.
Yes.
The regional suburb in Victoria.
Yes.
It has some of the best fundamentals I have seen in a very long time.
Any idea where Hamilton is?
It's a very good question. It is northeast.
Northeast. Is it next to any of the major?
Storwell.
No, so not next to one of the major regionals. Okay, so smaller.
Probably is. I've never been there. I'm a
data guy. Yeah,
I'm the data armchair expert, man.
I like it.
Yeah.
I like
you expect me to go to Hamilton?
Tell me a little bit more about Hamilton.
So affordability, crazy affordable. 25. Okay. The trends. Actually, I'll tell you why I'm so excited about this. I noticed something in Mildura 18 months ago or 12 months ago that told me that something crazy was about to happen in the next 12 months. What was crazy about it is the steepness of the trends that are sort of dropping. So if you think about stock on market is basically a reflection of how much stock is on the market at the moment relative to the total number of housing in these suburbs. It's sitting at 0.15%, which is abysmally low. Right? That's basically nothing there. But that is a steep drop from where it was maybe 12 months, 18 months ago. So that negative gradient that I've seen in Hamilton is far better than any of the other suburbs that I've spoken about. So that tells me that the stock shortage that is happening in Hamilton is unlike anything you will see in most of the other suburbs. And the only ones I can really think of is actually Carrum Downs in Melbourne that had the same level of negative steepness. So that one's there. I love that it's IRSAT of 3.
Yep.
I don't know how that happens. That's crazy. That's for a regional market where you can buy houses for $400,000, $500,000.
What sort of price point am I spending here?
400, 420.
400 grand. I love it.
Yeah, you can. It's really cool because Hamilton has, it's a 5.5 easily. Anything lower, and I would run. Yeah. Or at least have a trajectory towards a higher yield. You know, there's a rent increase coming because someone rented it out to their mate and it was under rented. Yep. Really, really beautiful part of the world as well. I've been through Hamilton. I've never stayed in Hamilton. I've been through Hamilton. I think it was on the way to Mildura. It wasn't to Mildura. I think it was Bright. It's a beautiful part of the country. It's really, really nice. Love it. Obviously, no house has been constructed either, so the supply pipeline is very dry. Yep. Vacancy rates of 0.34%.
I like it.
There's one person renting their house out that is still on the market. Yeah. Most this. Yeah, it's crazy. Average time on market, so the days on market here is 70. So it is on the higher end when you look at a specific point in time. But the fact that it was 100 or something
regional,
like
yeah,
6 months ago.
Yeah, the trend matters.
Yeah, the trend matters so much. So
Awesome. And it's got a diverse economy as well.
It does, man. It really does. Yeah,
the great sectors,
multiple.
healthcare, trades,
agriculture, you know, manufacturing. It's all there. So you're sort of buying at these price points.
I like this one, Adi. I see why it's your favorite.
I honestly, man, I love this one. This one is, you know, if this is the kind of assets I was buying, like if I was earlier in my journey, this is where I would be buying.
100%. Yeah, so, makes a lot of sense here.
Yeah.
All of them so far have
Yes.
played a role and really should open up your minds to different areas that you could be looking at if you look at Melbourne and are worried about that yield component. That I've reiterated that a lot. But these locations will actually perform really, really well. The data tells us that it's there at its point now in its cycle. So very, very attractive. And the best thing about this is I actually think the majority of the people that listen to this will not have heard any of them.
Yeah.
That's
what
very,
makes me
very
happy
cool.
about it.
Yeah.
And friends of ours can also call them holes as well, I've heard.
Yes.
Which is quite interesting,
yes,
you know,
fine.
so they are, and then it's also in the middle of nowhere. So
it's true. Yeah. That's okay. You follow the numbers, you follow the data,
Exactly,
you follow
that's right.
what makes sense. And, you know, I live in an area that you wouldn't kind of call a hole, if that makes sense, but that doesn't mean it performs well in its property cycle right now. And, you know, you typically have to pay for that premium, and who cares about that? You care about the price growth element because that's what's taking you from point A to point B.
Exactly.
Let's go into the final market. I know we've talked about this one a little bit, so let's just run over it really, really quickly and tell us about the challenges in this market.
Sure. So the final market, I've already referenced this a couple of times in this podcast anyway, is Mildura.
Yes.
Mildura without a H at the end. Okay. It ends at A. Okay. The metrics, for this.
Metrics are good. Right?
Metrics are fantastic still.
What's going on right now there?
There is
like
a
on the ground.
surge of investor activity happening. Yeah. This is almost like a Perth in the last 2-3 years because the yields are high. Yeah, the big buyers agents are there.
Yeah, for sure.
My partner and I, Rona and I, bought our property there. The first property there 12 months ago. I think it settled in April of 2024. Yep. Completely different market. Yeah. I was bidding against myself. The guy was like, no, I want higher. And I was like, do you have other offers? No, but I still want higher. Okay, here's $1,000 more. So I bought something for like $340. It was an 800 square meter block. I could quite literally sell this to another buyer's agent today for their client for like $440. So from a 340 to 440 in a regional market in 12 months, it's
call both buyers agents. You might get to 460.
That's true. Like, hey, have you heard of this one? Yeah, and people are paying overs, right?
Yeah, they will.
A lot of finance clauses are also falling through. So you asked what the impacts are. A lot of finance clauses are because banks are just not stacking up. Like the valuations are just not stacking up.
Yep.
Because people are paying overs, and it's the only thing I can describe it as is it's a bit of a frenzy out there.
Yep.
And there's a massive yield compression happening as well. Even though the rental market is really strong, the growth in what's happening in the prices, what you would be paying $450 for 6 months ago, you're now paying $520, $530. Yields don't, rents don't catch up that quickly. So the challenge with Mildura is with 2-3 of the biggest buyers agencies in Australia buying there. Now, if you're an individual investor, you're going to try and buy in Mildura, good luck. If you can, I will most likely hire you. So if you can, please apply to Addy at laaproperty.com.
Are you still looking for people, Addy?
Maybe? I am.
Maybe.
I'm looking for someone a little bit special.
If you're a little bit special, speak to us.
I mean,
actually, I'll say that if you're a little bit special, you're always welcome to join Flint. And anyone, I'll actually do a shout out here. We are continually growing Flint and Alaya. So, if you're great, looking for role in the buyer's agency space, a bit of a leader, it would be cool to come in and help the growth of everything that we're doing here. So I've picked up 2 of the staff that have come through have been directly from this podcast watching it and have sent me messages directly being like, hey, I want to work here. And they have been amazing to work for because they understand exactly what our mission is, believe in it, and want to be part of it. So that is something, if you're watching this being like, that could be me. Adi seems like an okay bloke, or Reedham seems like an okay bloke. I wouldn't mind working with that guy. That would be cool. Reach out to us.
That would be cool, actually, yeah. And if you are special, we're both pretty special. We get told that almost every day. Not in a positive sense, but, we're special regardless.
Very few people call me special. But thank you. That's very kind.
I call you special. I think you're special.
Yeah, that's your way of giving constructive feedback. You're special, Reedham.
You're very special, Reedham. So yes, Mildura is my last one, right?
Yes.
So it is most definitely something that we're actually not buying there actively anymore.
Yeah, makes sense.
It is sort of the tail end of the market, the cycle. There's probably still a bit of run because
there is. For
there's
sure.
still going to be another 6-12 months to run, but
Yeah.
the challenges of like trying to compete with 30 other buyers agents and 40 other people, homeowners, it's a different market now, right?
sure,
So if you were there 6 months ago, well done. You would have made a lot of money. But yeah, so that's our cat,
sure,
man. That's
yeah.
our 6.
I loved how we went through 6, and if we frameworked where all 6 sit, many of them are here in the colder stages of its growth cycle, but have the same frameworks as the Mildura market here. That's why we added in as number 6 here. So they will move. A couple of these will definitely move to Mildura type temperatures. I suspect Shepparton, I suspect Hamilton will get there. I suspect Golden Square will get there.
Yes.
I'm not too sure about Ararat, but like it's a bit smaller, so I do suspect it will go there as well. But it's a bit smaller. It'll be a different type of market. Obviously, a little bit more risk when you're buying in a very, very regional, remote, smaller area as well. But it does present a whole range of options for you to buy with a decent yield that suits company trust purchases, that suits anyone looking for yield as part of their risk management strategy. It suits the majority of property investors looking around. It gets the Melbourne spillover benefits, get the rate cut benefits associated with it. It's got diverse economies tied to agriculture, tied to healthcare, tied to industries that are growing over time, tied to that rate cycle story and the macro story. There is so much in many of these markets that you shouldn't just put a black wall in front of you when looking at these. You should really open your eyes to these locations. Artie's opened my eyes up to many of them as well. And hopefully some of you can get some value here and maybe even make a couple purchases and continue on with your wealth creation dreams.
Absolutely. It's exciting, man. But I'm really looking forward to the comments. I love the comment section after every one of these episodes, the hurtful comments. They're less hurtful now, more entertaining, but yeah, as soon as someone hears me saying Ararat or you trying to say Ararat, they're going to...
That's true. If there's anything, I actually really value... So those that are watching here, the real value... Some of you know a lot about these areas because you might be there or very, very connected to it. Adi and I are looking at things... at a higher level and on the ground in some of these locations, but you may have a different set of information when you're working there or living there or you know that market intimately. Share it. Like, it makes everyone a lot more informed if you're providing your perspective on something and your own judgments and your own opinions. I love that. Challenge us, challenge our views, challenge our mindsets. That curiosity element between us is there, and I'll love to learn from you as well as our community who watch this every week. So big shout out to you and big thank you. And thank you so much, Adi, again.
I appreciate it, man. Thank you for having me. This was fun.